Do you, like so many others, eagerly anticipate spring, counting down the days until you can finally harvest those first fresh greens from your garden? But what if I told you there's a way to skip the wait and enjoy a bountiful harvest weeks before anyone else? Today, we're diving into the secrets of fall or winter sowing, a technique that can truly transform your spring garden. We'll explore 8 incredible plants that will make your plot a true marvel. Stay tuned and discover how to make nature work for you, giving you a significant head start while everyone else is still busy planning their spring plantings. So, what exactly is fall or winter sowing? It's not some trendy new gardening hack. In fact, it's an age-old technique, proven effective for centuries. Our ancestors understood this perfectly. Certain seeds need that cold exposure to wake up in spring, bursting with vigour. This process is called stratification. By sowing seeds in the fall, we're essentially mimicking these ideal, natural conditions for them. As soon as the snow melts and the soil begins to warm, these seeds will be ready to sprout, taking off weeks before any spring-planted crops. It's not magic, it's just smart gardening. All right, leading our fall planting guide is the undisputed champion, garlic. If you want truly large, pungent heads next summer, then autumn is the time to plant it. Spring planting simply won't yield the same impressive results. What's the secret? It's quite simple. Throughout fall and winter, the cloves establish a strong root system and undergo natural cold stratification. In spring, as soon as the snow melts, this garlic explodes with incredible vigour, outpacing all its competitors. Contrast that with spring-planted garlic, which often grows small, sometimes even forming just a single, large, unsegmented clove, often called a solo garlic. The golden rule is timing. Plant your garlic roughly 3 to 4 weeks before the ground consistently freezes solid and hard frosts set in. The goal is for the garlic to establish roots, but not to sprout green shoots above the surface. Plant too early, and those tender shoots will succumb to the frost. Plant too late, and it simply won't have enough time to root properly. And of course, make sure to choose winter hardy varieties. These are often referred to as hardneck or fall-planted garlic, and they are specifically bred for this type of planting. Before sending them into the ground, break the heads into individual cloves, selecting only the largest, healthiest ones, free from any spots or damage. You can soak them for a couple of hours in a weak solution of potassium permanganate for disinfection. This simple step will help protect your future harvest from diseases. The key to a successful garlic harvest lies in planting at the right depth. It's easy to get this wrong, and a common mistake here can easily undo all your efforts. Plant them too shallowly, and the first hard freezes can actually heave the cloves out of the ground, exposing them to damaging frost. Conversely, if you plant them too deep, the garlic will expend a tremendous amount of energy in spring just to reach the sunlight. This valuable energy will be diverted to leaf growth, rather than forming a large, robust bulb. The result? A disappointing harvest of smaller bulbs. So how do you find that perfect balance? Luckily, there's a simple, foolproof rule that even our grandparents used. The planting depth should be approximately 3 times the height of the individual clove. Essentially, once your clove is in the ground, ensure there are about 2 more clove lengths of soil covering its tip. This typically translates to about 5 to 8 centimetres, or 2 to 3 inches, depending on the size of your cloves. Simply place your clove in the prepared hole and make sure the soil layer above it meets this guideline. This foolproof method ensures both excellent winter protection and a vigorous spring start, leading to a fantastic yield. Here's a practical method. The ideal planting depth for garlic is 3 times the height of a single clove. This simple visual guide eliminates all the guesswork, so you won't need rulers or complex measuring tools. Just take a clove, place it on the soil surface, and then visually imagine 2 more identical clove heights stacked directly above it. That total depth is your perfect planting spot. Why is this crucial? Let's review. Plant too shallow and you risk winter damage. Plant too deep and you'll see delayed growth and smaller bulbs. The 3 heights method, however, strikes the perfect balance. It provides the clove with ample protection from frost without creating unnecessary obstacles for spring sprouting. Additionally, at this depth, your garlic remains stable, preventing it from being heaved out of the ground during winter thaws and subsequent freezes. Remember this simple technique, and your full-planted garlic will consistently reward you with strong sprouts and consequently an excellent harvest. It's a prime example of how the simplest solution can often be the most effective. Right next to your garlic, its faithful companion, onion sets, will thrive. That's right, you heard correctly. These tiny bulbs are also planted in the fall for overwintering, and it's a brilliant strategy. Forget the long wait and fuss of growing green onions in spring. Overwintering onion sets is your ticket to the earliest bunches of crisp, fragrant green onions. Literally poking through the snow, the first vibrant green shoots packed with vitamins will emerge, while your neighbours are just beginning to prepare their garden beds. The secret is identical to garlic's. Over the winter, the tiny bulbs establish strong root systems, harden off, and then spring into growth at the very first opportunity. For autumn planting, the smallest onion sets are ideal. Their diameter typically doesn't exceed 1 centimetre. Larger sets can also be planted, but they carry a higher risk of bolting or going to seed. However, these tiny sets are guaranteed to produce abundant, lush greens, and some varieties will even yield a respectable bulb by midsummer. This is a genuine game changer for anyone who dislikes waiting and wants to maximise their garden's output. A common fear among gardeners is that fall-planted onions will simply freeze over winter, but that's a widespread myth, and it often prevents us from enjoying incredibly early harvests. In reality, onions are surprisingly resilient to cold. With the right approach, they can easily withstand even the harshest winters. So what does this right approach entail? Firstly, it's all about choosing the right variety. When buying onion sets, look for varieties labelled winter hardy, or simply ask your supplier if they're suitable for overwintering. Secondly, don't overlook proper protection. Once your onion sets are in the ground and consistent frosts arrive, it's time to mulch the bed. Dry fallen leaves, straw, or peat moss make excellent choices for this. A 5 to 7 centimetre or 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch will create an insulating air pocket, shielding your onion sets from drastic temperature swings and harsh, snowless freezes. In spring, as soon as the snow has melted, carefully remove this protective layer. This allows the soil to warm up faster, encouraging your onions to sprout and grow. So, there's no need to fear the cold. The right variety, coupled with a light blanket of mulch, that's truly all you need for a successful crop. Now let's talk about root vegetables. Yes, that's right. Carrots can, and really should, be sown in the fall. Just imagine your own crunchy, sweet carrots ready by early summer when they're still quite expensive at the market. Fall planting gives your carrots a massive head start. After spending the winter in the soil, the seeds swell with meltwater and begin to germinate at the very first positive temperatures. They make full use of all that early spring moisture, which is especially crucial in regions prone to dry springs. Consequently, you'll harvest your carrots 2 to 3 weeks earlier than with traditional spring planting. What's more, carrots grown from these hardened seeds tend to be juicier, sweeter, and significantly more resistant to carrot fly attacks. By the time the carrot flies are out in force, your root vegetables will already be strong and established. The only minor drawback is that these particular carrots aren't ideal for long-term winter storage. But don't worry, they won't have a chance to go stale anyway. They'll be the first to disappear, devoured like the most anticipated summer delicacy. It's truly the perfect way to enjoy those first fresh vitamins straight from your garden bed. When it comes to fall sowing carrots, there's a crucial detail you absolutely must not overlook. First off, make sure to select only early and mid-season varieties. Late varieties simply won't have enough time to develop full-size roots in the short growing window available. Look for labels on the seed packets that say bunching maturity, early, or explicitly state they are recommended for fall sowing. For example, Nantes 4 or vitamina 6. Secondly, you'll need to sow a bit more seed than you typically would in spring. Increase your seeding rate by about 20 to 25%. Think of this as your insurance policy. Winter can be harsh, and some seeds might not survive severe frosts or other adverse conditions. This denser planting will make up for any losses, and come spring, you'll still get good, even germination. And once they've grown a bit, you can always thin them out, leaving only the strongest and most vigorous plants. This small surplus of seeds is your guarantee for an abundant early harvest, so don't skimp on it. First up on our table, the star of fresh greens, parsley. Its seeds are notoriously slow germinators. Thanks to their high essential oil content, they take ages to sprout in spring. Sometimes you'll be waiting 3, even 4 weeks for seedlings to appear. All that time, you're constantly keeping the bed moist, battling weeds. It's a real chore. Overwintering solves this problem once and for all. Over the long winter, the essential oils in the seeds are naturally leached out by melting snow and rain. Then, as soon as the ground warms up even slightly in spring, your parsley will burst forth with strong, uniform shoots. You'll be enjoying lush, aromatic parsley plants much earlier than if you'd waited until spring to plant. This method works wonderfully for both leaf and root parsley varieties. Imagine clipping your first fresh sprigs for a barbecue or salad, while your neighbour's garden beds are still completely bare. It's not just delicious, there's a real satisfaction in knowing you've cleverly harnessed nature's cycles to your advantage. Fall planting for overwintering is truly the secret weapon for impatient fresh herb lovers. Parsley is surprisingly tough when it comes to cold. It's truly one of the most frost-resistant plants you can grow in your garden. Its root system overwinters beautifully in the soil, and even mature plants can survive the winter to provide early greens the following spring. And the seeds, they get the perfect natural conditioning for germination directly in the ground. You won't need to pre-soak them, sprout them, or perform any of the common tricks gardeners use in spring to speed up germination. Nature takes care of it all for you. Simply prepare your garden bed in the fall, make shallow furrows about 1 to 1.5 centimetres deep, and sow your seeds. It's crucial to sow them into already chilled or even lightly frozen soil, ensuring they don't germinate before winter truly sets in. Then cover them with dry, pre-prepared soil or peat. That's it. The rest is simply a matter of time and the warmth of the spring sun. Trust me, once you see that vibrant emerald carpet of parsley sprouts emerge early next spring, you'll never go back to planting it in the spring. It's simple, incredibly effective, and wonderfully convenient. Next up, we have dill, another fragrant herb. The situation with dill is quite similar to parsley. Its seeds also contain essential oils that can delay germination, but by planting dill in the fall, you'll be rewarded with the earliest and most aromatic harvest, perfect for fresh salads, traditional Russian cold soups like okroshka, and crisp, quick pickles. What's more, dill grown this way tends to be stronger and more robust, producing bushier plants. It takes advantage of all the moisture from the melting snow, rapidly developing its lush, green foliage before the spring sun becomes too intense. You see, dill, much like many other leafy greens, doesn't thrive in heat. High temperatures quickly cause it to bolt, meaning it goes to seed and flowers prematurely. Fall sowing helps bypass this characteristic, allowing you to harvest your main crop of tender dill before the intense summer heat sets in. It's an ideal solution for anyone who wants fresh dill on their table from early spring right through summer, as you can sow another batch in the same spot once the first harvest is complete. When planting dill, it's crucial not to sow the seeds too deep, or they simply won't be able to sprout in spring. Dill seeds are quite small, and if buried too deep, the delicate seedlings won't have enough energy to push through to the sunlight. The ideal depth is just 1 centimetre, or perhaps a maximum of 1.5. Essentially, you just need to lightly cover the seeds with soil. So, how do you do this effectively? Prepare your garden bed in advance while the soil is still soft. Make shallow furrows to the correct depth. Wait until after the first light frosts, when the topsoil has developed a slight crust. Then, simply scatter the seeds into these furrows and gently cover them with dry, loose soil that you prepared beforehand and kept warm, perhaps in a shed. Under no circumstances should you compact or water the newly sown seeds. Doing so could create an icy crust, which would prevent the seedlings from pushing through. Lightness and aeration are key to successful fall or winter dill sowing. And what about spinach? This incredible crop is simply made for fall planting. Spinach is a true champion of cold hardiness. Its young seedlings can easily withstand temperatures as low as 6 degrees below 0 Celsius. However, what it absolutely detests is heat and long daylight hours. When sown in spring, we often find that before it even has a chance to develop a good rosette of leaves, the plant quickly bolts, sending up a flower stalk, and that's the end of your harvest. The leaves become small and tough. But late fall or overwintering sowing completely solves this problem. Germinating in early spring, when the days are still short and the weather remains cool, spinach dedicates all its energy to forming juicy, tender and large leaves. You can enjoy several bountiful harvests even before the summer heat truly sets in. This is by far the most reliable way to maximize the benefits from this incredibly nutritious, vitamin-packed green. So if you're a spinach lover, you absolutely must give fall planting a try. Planting spinach in the fall helps prevent it from bolting prematurely, ensuring you get an abundance of tender, succulent leaves. This is a key advantage of autumn sowing. The whole secret lies in the plant's biology. Spinach is a short-day plant. As soon as daylight hours begin to consistently exceed 14 hours, this signals the plant to reproduce, essentially causing it to bolt and go to seed. With spring planting, this point arrives all too quickly. However, when you plant in the fall, it's a different story. The plant actively develops through April and May, when days are still relatively short. This is precisely when it forms that robust rosette of leaves we cultivate it for. You'll get exactly the quality harvest you expect. Large, fleshy and tender leaves, perfect for salads, smoothies or cooked dishes. The common problem of spinach bolting simply ceases to exist for you. You're essentially aligning spinach's natural life cycle with your growing needs by cleverly utilizing natural climatic conditions. That's smart gardening in action. Now let's talk about the quickest vegetable, the radish. Many might be surprised, but you can actually sow them in the fall. Sowing radishes before winter almost guarantees success, especially in southern and temperate regions. In spring, radishes often struggle with insufficient moisture and can be devastated by flea beetles, which are capable of wiping out an entire crop of seedlings in just a couple of days. By planting in the fall, we cleverly bypass both these problems. The seeds make the most of meltwater, leading to rapid growth and roots that are crisp, juicy and free of hollow spots. And by the time those hungry flea beetles wake up, your radishes will already have strong enough leaves that are simply unappetizing to them. As a result, you'll harvest clean, large and wonderfully crunchy radishes 2 to 3 weeks earlier than usual. It's a fantastic way to kick off the fresh vegetable season straight from your garden. Just imagine that first spring salad, featuring your very own homegrown radishes, not some store-bought variety. For that experience alone, it's absolutely worth giving it a try. But when it comes to radishes, timing is everything. They are arguably the most demanding crop for dormant sowing. You need to plant them just before the ground freezes solid, or even directly onto already frozen soil. Why is that? Radish seeds germinate incredibly fast, sometimes in just a few days. If sown too early during an autumn warm spell, the seeds might sprout prematurely. And those delicate young sprouts, of course, won't survive a true winter freeze. Our goal is to ensure the seeds remain dormant in the soil until spring arrives. That's why the ideal time for sowing is November, or even early December in some regions. Make sure to prepare your garden bed and furrows in advance while the soil is still workable. Also, store a bag of dry soil, which you'll use for covering the seeds, in a frost-free location. Then, once the ground is consistently frozen, simply head out to your garden, Scatter the seeds into the frozen furrows, cover them with that stored, dry soil, and you're done. This simple trick is your secret to the earliest harvest of crisp, crunchy radishes. And naturally, no garden is truly complete without fresh lettuce. Certain cold hardy varieties of both loose leaf and head lettuce actually overwinter quite well as seeds, surprising you with early sprouts come spring. For this pre-winter sowing, varieties like Moskovsky Parnikovi, Berlinsky Jelty, or Iceberg are ideal. These particular varieties are genetically resistant to cold and won't prematurely bolt, even when spring mornings are still quite cool. The principle is identical to other cool season greens. The seeds undergo natural stratification, soak up the meltwater, and germinate as soon as conditions allow. This means you'll have those coveted first vitamin-rich leaves for sandwiches and salads long before you'd even begin to consider your spring planting. This method is a game changer, especially if you're not keen on the fuss and mess of starting lettuce seedlings indoors. Fall sowing is a remarkably simple and reliable way to ensure a fresh supply of greens with minimal effort. You simply sow the seeds in the fall, then come spring, you're ready to harvest. In spring, this type of lettuce sprouts uniformly and quickly, providing your first fresh vitamins straight from the garden. Unlike spring sowing, where uneven germination can occur due to the topsoil drying out, winter sowing allows seeds to efficiently utilize the moisture accumulated over winter. The soil, saturated with meltwater, creates ideal conditions for seed germination. The seedlings emerge incredibly dense and uniform, strong and vigorous. All you'll need to do is thin them out at the right time. Furthermore, these cold-hardened plants grow sturdier, boasting richer leaf colour and a more pronounced flavour. They are more resistant to diseases and better withstand late spring cold snaps. Essentially, you're getting seedlings nurtured in the most Spartan yet natural conditions. No indoor or greenhouse environment can replicate this effect. It's yet another testament that working in harmony with nature always yields superior results. Now here's a crucial tip for all your late season plantings. Prepare your garden beds well in advance while the soil is still warm and easy to work with. Don't leave it until the last minute. Once the first frosts hit, digging into frozen ground will be both too late and incredibly difficult. In September or October, after you've harvested your main crops, select the highest and sunniest spot in your garden for these late plantings. This should be an area where snow melts quickly in spring and water doesn't pool. Thoroughly dig over the soil, incorporate some well-rotted manure or compost, and add a little wood ash. Avoid using fresh manure, as it can burn delicate young roots when they emerge in spring. Form your beds and immediately create the necessary furrows for each crop, ensuring they are at the correct depth. And most importantly, prepare several buckets of dry, loose soil or peat in advance. You'll need to store this soil in a shed or garage to keep it from freezing. You'll use this to cover your seeds when it's time to sow into already frozen or partially frozen ground. This early preparation is half the battle for a successful outcome. And remember the golden rule of winter sowing. Plant seeds into cold but not yet frozen ground, or even when there's just a thin, frozen crust on the surface. The main goal is to prevent the seeds from germinating in the fall. If you sow them too early into warm and moist soil, they'll mistake it for spring and quickly sprout. The first serious frosts will then destroy these delicate seedlings, so don't rush the process. Focus on the weather conditions, not the calendar dates. The ideal moment is when the average daily air temperature consistently hovers around 0 degrees Celsius, and nighttime temperatures fall to -2 or 3 degrees Celsius. At this point, the ground is cold enough to ensure the seeds remain dormant until spring. This is precisely why you need to have dry soil prepared in advance for covering the seeds, as you won't be able to get it from the frozen garden beds. Adhering to this simple yet crucial rule is what distinguishes a successful winter sowing from a failed experiment. Patience and careful attention to the weather forecast will be your greatest allies. The most amazing moment in this whole gardening journey truly comes alive in spring. Imagine stepping out into your garden and seeing neat rows of seedlings already greening up in your beds. In that moment, you realise you've either outsmarted nature or, more accurately, started a beautiful collaboration with it. This isn't just about an early harvest. It's a completely different feeling when it comes to your spring garden chores. There's no rush, no frantic work with fragile seedlings. Your garden simply wakes itself up as soon as the snow melts. You simply get to observe the magic you set in motion back in the fall. This is the real game changer, shifting from the typical spring race to a calm, confident start to the season. You're no longer battling the weather. You're leveraging its natural cycles to your advantage. So, let's recap. Garlic, onions, carrots, parsley, dill, spinach, radishes, and lettuce. These are your 8 reliable allies for achieving that super early harvest. Fall planting saves your precious springtime, hardens off your plants, and gives them a powerful, natural head start. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more smart gardening secrets. Now, I have a question for you. What plants have you already tried planting for winter? Share your experiences or ask your questions in the comments below. Let's get a discussion going.